And today's episode is going to be the legendary duo called OutKast. For one of the first episodes, I definitely want to do this one. I had a couple in mind, but I knew the first off rip I wanted to do this one. So first going off, me and Jay Trent gonna go around the table and share our favorite songs from the duo and our top 10. Um, for my top 10, I'd have to do Get Up, Get Out. Off one reason is why because I loved it after I found out about it on the ATL soundtrack, and that's partially how I was introduced to OutKast. Um, Crumbling Herb. Let's see what else. Um, Mainstream, Jazzy Bell, Millennium, Return to G, which I think is such an important song because first of all, it's one of the best second tracks on the album ever, one of the best tracks ever on the album. And then second, it was kind of like their introduction to the game and just letting them not introduce the game, but it was letting the rap game know, hey, we not like just we not fluke, like we real, we're actual, like we're here to do this. Criminal itself just got a bunch of crazy songs. I had to put the art of storytelling one on there and two on there as well. The life in the day of Andre Benjamin. And how many was that?
That is, let's see. You said Get Up, Get Out, Crumbling Herb, Millennium, Jazzy Bell, Mainstream. That's 5. Uh, Art of Storytelling 1 and 2. That's 7.
I said Return to G2, or did you already say that?
Okay, yeah, that's 8.
All right. A favorite is definitely skewed on the Barbie. Just the East Coast South collab. It's just one thing that I love every single time it happens. It's just a perfect song from front to back. And then Liberation, I had to do for my last song because given the tone of the album, throughout the entire album, you don't really see it coming like that in a sense. Like just kind of from an instrumentation and just like a tone standpoint, it's like dang, they really went there, and it's kind of like the subject matter isn't. I'm not gonna say it's dark, but at the same time, it's not like super lighthearted or anything like that. So that and then Chunky Fire comes right after that, and then closing the album on Chunky Fire, which is like a hint of what Stankonia was gonna be. They was just gonna go super left field for the next album. It just kind of hits really hard. So just in general, just those songs to me are probably probably the best plays of their songwriting as a group. And then just by them and Andre and Big Boy by themselves. So that's why I probably picked that 10. And Jay, what is your top 10?
Okay, so for my top 10, I decided to try to pick something from every album. So I picked 2 songs from the debut. So I went with Deep because of the subject matter them talking about uh, dispelling the stereotypes about the community that people have.
Mm-hmm.
And I also went with Crumbling Herb, which we've already talked about. It's one of those songs where I'm just sitting here to myself because I'd rather do that than be out here in the streets taking shots at people that look like me. So I went with 2 from AT Aliens. I went with the single Elevators. It's iconic OutKast song. I also went with 2 Dope Boys in the Cadillac.
Which kind of like just like when that song is like, hey, it truly sets the tone. It sets the tone for the album, just in the entire, like, hey, this not even the best on the album yet, but this what you're gonna expect sound wise for the most part. So just kind of be like, don't be surprised from what else you get.
Right. It was a great introduction to the direction that the album was going in. And I also went with Two Dope Boys in the Cadillac, just with that being the first song after You May Die, which is the intro. Just the energy and the what's the word? They also sampled the same song that they sampled for Deep off of the first album. I like the little connection that was
which
drawn
is
there.
which is something that I feel like that's a very hard thing to do. Sampling songs, sampling your old songs, and just completely straight up flipping it, acting like it's almost like I'm not gonna say super unnoticeable, but like you can't. It's not easy to point out. So like this is an impressive thing to do, and that's one of the reasons why. That's probably one of the reasons why the Dungeon family and then the OutKast themselves were some of my favorite producers because they still like they were one of one in themselves. Like nothing, you can't trace that back to like I don't say you can't trace it back to anything, but you can't say nobody was doing you can't say nobody had that production style like nobody else could replicate it is what I'm saying.
Right.
Like
Very,
it's truly one on one.
very, right. Very, very unique, especially for the time. Okay, so next I went to Aquemini, which is my favorite album. So I chose 3 songs from Aquemini. I went with Skew It on the Barbie. Um, Love the collab. Raekwon is my favorite Wu-Tang member, so it's definitely a big deal for me. Spodioti Dopalicious. I just love the incorporation of jazz into the music whenever you can do that, the spoken word element. And I also went with Liberation because I feel like if somebody had never heard of OutKast as a group, that song feels like the
Because it's some of
culmination.
everything.
Right. It feels like the culmination of their identity
And
as
what
artists.
they stand for.
Right.
Like you don't want to just like give them a song that and then just be like, oh, this don't really represent them that well. I feel like Liberation, if I had to do a second song, what would it be?
As far as their like the culmination of their sound as a whole.
I would have say part of me wants to say Get Up, Get Out. Part of me wants to also say Millennium. Part of me also wants to say I can't even do I really can't. It's really hard to do.
Right.
Like
Okay.
Liberation is truly perfect. Everything else, you don't touch on all bases like that. So you like I can't really just put it. It's truly just one on one. Like I can't really. That would
Well,
have to be the song.
right. That's definitely number one. But number two, and I'm glad that you brought that up because it's the perfect way for me to segue into Stank on You. So I also chose 2 songs from that album. The first song that I chose would be the second song that I would choose to try to fully embody them as artists, and that is Humble Mumble. Because I feel like, especially as far as that album is considered, it like the all the eccentricity and the like you said, the left field approach that they took with making that album, I feel like Humble Mumble embodies that. And the second song I chose from that album is Gasoline Dreams. I I tend to gravitate toward intros or second tracks or whatever the first official song is, because I feel like those tracks are designed to grab the listener and let them know what the experience of the album is gonna be like.
It's it's like an introduction paragraph to an essay you writing in school. You can't expect nobody to write to like this essay or this story or whatever you're doing if the first 2 or 3 tracks are just not or just missing. And that's just something with artists in general. Like I hate albums that start slow. I just hate albums that always start slow. I much rather an album. I'm not saying it's a good thing at all, but I much rather albums start off good and then I just kind of fade away versus the other way around, because if I do the other way around, I'm probably gonna stop listening before I even get to the good stuff. So at least I can appreciate coming out strong first. But of course, I don't prefer either of that. I prefer, of course, good music all around.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it's important as an artist to find the balance to where you want your listener to be um what's the word? You want your listener
To be
to be
engaged.
engaged, yes, the whole time. So I feel like, but as a listener and as somebody who has put projects together, I want to hit you in your gut with this first track. Like I feel like that's important because I feel like if you don't take nothing else away, I want you to take this from it.
Like
And
it's
I
kind of
feel
like,
like,
hey, you don't want
and
somebody.
because you look at the OutKast album and you look at all of the first songs on the album. So you look at My Intro to Let You Know, or Two Dope Boys in a Cadillac, Return of the Gangster, Gasoline Dream. They all sound different, but they all pull you in the same way. And I feel like that's important when it comes to the music making process.
Like it's just some with my favorite artists of all time, like OutKast, Kendrick, um, who else? Like OutKast, Kendrick, um, I'm trying to think of other rappers that I love the very initial parts of the album. I'll just use this as an example. For instance, with Kendrick Lamar on Good Kid, Mad City, the second track of the album is "Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe," and it's super. It's not like this extreme. If I remember correctly, it's not like this extreme display of rap skill or anything like that. But it sets the tone for the entire album, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna give you a sneak peek of what we talking about. It's interesting. It has to be interesting more than anything to me in order for me to go on. And that's just like that's pretty much with any great project or any great or any classic album. I don't know a classic album that just started off super slow. That's just
Right.
me, like in my opinion. Um, so yeah, like Outkast, like they the king of that. Like, cause on several playlists of Cadillac Funky Music, that's the second. What is the second track off that?
My Intro to Let You Know, and then it goes into Ain't No Thing.
Yes, that's it. On Ain't No Thing, first time listening to that, it's catchy. Like it gives you a sneak peek of what Outkast is like in the first place. Like, hey, it's catchy, so we can sing songs, we can make hooks, we not one dimensional, and plus we can really, really rap. So
Right.
for just a debut project, this not even I'm not gonna even get into like just projects in general, but like for a debut project, that's what you need to have. I'm not gonna be inclined to listen to you because you can show me your potential further on. Now, granted, there are some artists that truly like they may not show it on the first album, but they definitely take a leap on the second album. But I feel like most great artists, they gonna catch you, they gonna let you know early, hey, this is what I'm capable of. Or hey, this is like, hey, stay right there. I got more to show. I got more to show you, so just stay right there. So that's what I feel like with second tracks on albums, just intro and first artists on albums in general. And Outkast was just really great at that. So I do agree with you on. I do agree with your whole point.
Right. So I got one song left. And for Speak About Us the Love Below, I would have gone with Life in the Day of Benjamin Andre. But since that song was on your list, I'm taking a little detour and I'm going to an album that does not get talked about very much. And that is
Out of Wild.
exactly. So I'm going with In Your Dreams, featuring Janelle Monáe and Killer Mike. That album came out in 2006. That was my introduction to Janelle Monáe as an artist. She has come on to have this great career in our own right, and the energy that that song brings and Big Boy's performance is really one of my favorites from him. And I feel like that album doesn't get talked about as much because it was clearly the end of the duo creatively. But there's still some standout songs on that album, and I feel like it's become underappreciated at this point.
Yeah, like 100%. I 100% feel you. Like just for coming, like, hey, this is my calling. Like, hey, this is my last. This gonna be our last part of life for real, for real. And I know they dropped. Excuse me. I know they dropped Royal Flush. Yeah, 2 or 3 years after that. But like, as much as much criticism Wow gets, a lot of artists can't even say they got a better album than that.
Like, I will stamp this as my opinion. That is the closest we will get to a flawless discography, a flawless catalog. OutKast is the closest that we're gonna get because it's an important part of having a great catalog is knowing when to let it go.
I 100% agree with you. I agree with you on your take too. That's a belief that I've held as well. I was like, if I had to get the best catalog out of all legends, I got OutKast number one. Because no matter how you feel about them, I can't say shooting 5 for 5. You shot 5 for 5, and 4 of your projects can be considered classics. Or is it 5 or is it 6 for 6?
Yeah, I would say 6 for 6 because even Speak About the Love Below.
I was forgetting my Speak About. I'm sorry.
Right. Even the double album, which really kind of signifies the beginning of the creative difference and them wanting to go in different directions as artists, it still brings an energy that you don't really see anywhere else with any other act.
You don't. Since we're done talking about the song, we can kind of go ahead and transition to the legacy part that I want to get to, and we kind of started it now. But you can't. There's not many rap artists you can say, hey, each album is drastically different than the other, and we executed it at such a high level. A lot of people can't say that. OutKast can say that. Like, I feel like personally with Speakerbox, I like Speakerbox a lot. Like, because it's the album had a lot of mainstream success. However, at the same time, it's not commercial.
Right. Even a song that would embody that, I think, from the Speakerbox half of the album is Knowing, which is really just the art of storytelling part 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's something that you see how successful that album was in the mainstream. It had several number 1 singles. It won the Grammy Album of the Year and all of that. But on top of that, it also brings the embodiment of the OutKast sound, even with both artists technically doing solo albums and then just piecing it together.
Like, it's like songs like Ghetto Music, War, Life in the Day of Andre Benjamin. Speakerbox late in their career, it did such a great job of showing them, hey, we are still not one-trick ponies. We are still like, we still can be multifaceted. We still can get busy on the track and make something that's completely left field. We can hit a bunch of boxes that everybody else can't at the same time. And that's just one thing about OutKast. It's like, you can't just reaching from a technical level and then from a creativity level, they have always hit the mark. Like, they are the standard to me in terms of just like a combination of like technical ability and creativity. And they just 101 they don't make the same. They never make the same album twice. They on so many songs that they've been featured on, they are literally the highlight of the. They are the highlight of the song. Like if like even late in his career, Andre 3000 was a highlight of some songs. Like I'm talking 2016, and I'm talking. Right. I'm gonna go this. I'm gonna say 2021 too with "Life of the Party."
Definitely a great verse from him.
That was to me. That was the highlight of Donda. That's not a disrespect to Donda itself, because I did enjoy it. It's an album like post 2016 Kanye. That's one of the albums I enjoyed more from him. But "Life of the Party," it was arguably the best verse of the year too. Like
that's valid.
It's something that you can't. They made it. OutKast made a statement with. They proved that making the same album, not making the same album twice, and being technically proficient at the same time, that's gonna really get you. That's gonna get you where you want to be in the hip hop legacy scene. Not you. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I'm just saying, because a lot of people can't execute that. But if you can do it, you're gonna be remembered for sure. And also that age, to me, personally, this is something that I've been debating with for a minute. To me, age does not define skill, because I want to say it's partially experience, but at the same time, though, it's a very case by case basis, and I feel like it's all regarding to situation. Because, for instance, with Nas, he had just put out Magic. Magic, to me, is the best project Nas has put out since 2012. I honestly have it better than Life is Good. And Nas was rapping like Nas was rapping like he was in his like better years of his career. So it kind of, and at that later age, so I'm just kind of thinking, hey, is age really synonymous with skill? Is there a set?
This is what I'll say, because I don't think they're synonymous, but to an extent, a rapper will never be as hungry as they were when they made their first album.
That's fair.
And it's just like there's something there right. That's difficult to recreate. Your debut album is the album that you waited your whole life to make. After that, it's not to say that you can't become more technically proficient or be able to get ideas across better, or you can even be stronger lyrically after that. But your first album is always a moment. It doesn't matter how it's received. It doesn't matter how many listens you get, how many records you sell. That's the album that is an artist defining moment to some extent. And it's the case for every artist.
I will say this, some rappers don't drop their best album until the third, fourth part of their career. However, the first two albums of your career are definitely your most important, because the first one shows if you are really who you say or really who you think you are. And the second one is, hey, do I have staying power? Am I really here to stay in the rap game? So those are two very important albums. I'll say this. The way you can count it this way, like OutKast, you got Southern Playalistic, Calais Music, and then ATL, and coming off that with ATLians. A lot of people don't even have Highest Peak as the first album. And ATLians blows that out of the water. So it's just something that I think rappers back then, I just say rappers back then was just like they was just in it. Like they were just like that was their thing. That's what they wanted to like. That's what they wanted to do. That's what they wanted their career to be. That's not to bash new artists and like that, but when you're thinking about kids, like people like 16, 17, like these are people that are writing albums that we know and love, like classics at like ages 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 at such a young age. And it's like, dang, they was really doing that back then. Like they were really like, how can you be like it's just mind blowing. Like how can you be that young and making that such a great body of work?
Right. Is and that's why every artist has an emotional attachment to that first album, even if they feel like they got better after that, or if they feel like they were able to better convey the ideas, or musically there was an improvement. That's why the first album always has the emotional attachment for an artist, because it's like your firstborn of your career.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel people feel about Kendrick, Cole, and a lot of the blog era guys. Like Good Kid, Mad City was a moment. Like it's no matter because you know me. I'm a typical butterfly truth all the way. I think it's either his magnum opus, but like the press release, all that type of stuff around the album, that makes I actually wrote about this a couple months ago about how moments make classic albums more classic than just the music. Like for instance, Kanye albums wouldn't be Kanye albums without the rollouts or the
Sure.
Good Fridays or everything like that. It wouldn't be the eras wouldn't be the eras without the fits. They wouldn't be there's so much that ties into artistry itself that standalone bodies of work, like you can think a standalone body of work is great, but partially to me is what makes an album a classic. It's the stuff around the album as well. So that's just my
And
thing. Like you have to have the greats I remember because they have great bodies of work, and also the moments that surround the bodies of work. So I feel like both. I feel like they're not equally as important, but great artists they think of the stuff around the music too. Now I will say this: you can't plan everything. Some stuff just happens, and that's just the beauty of music in itself, and that's just the beauty of just art and life itself. But it's something just that you just can't replicate some things, and that's just how it is. You can try to, but it's just not going to work out the way you think it is. And that's what I just think about with not just OutKast, with the whole Source Awards thing. Was it the Source Awards, correct?
it was, yes.
OutKast with the whole Source Awards thing, the big moments that we had just growing up in high school, like Control, when not Silent Story, when Friday Night Lights came out, all that type of stuff. If you're reading this, it's too late came out by surprise. It's just so much stuff you just can't replicate. It's just so much stuff you can't replicate, bro. That's
Those
what makes it
moments,
special.
right? Those moments is how you make those emotional connections to those albums. And if it affects the listeners that way, you got to imagine that the artist feels the same way, or even stronger because it's a body of work that they put together.
Like, bro, I cannot imagine being. I couldn't imagine being Kid Lamar when you got the microphone, you got the Twister West Coast. I couldn't
Right.
imagine being Cole when he officially got the Jay-Z co-sign. I can't imagine being um Drake seeing Take Care do so well. and all his other albums due to where and just getting co-signed by all these legends. Like it's just some stuff you just cannot plan, and that's just the beauty of it. And that's what separates the greats from the people that aren't the greats. That's just how it is. From the 90s up until now, that's just partially how it is. You can work on your end as much as you can to make the best projects you can have. And of course, putting it all into your artistry. But then there's just stuff that I feel like doing that opens the door for the stuff you can't replicate. Like with Kanye West, if Kanye West didn't put all that stuff into his artistry, it wouldn't have opened the door for all the great moments that we've had just from the beginning to end of his or to his current part of his career. It's just like some stuff you can't copy. You can try to copy it, but it's just not gonna be as good. That's why I hate when people try to tell others, oh, we need a sequel trilogy, we need a sequel to this album, or we need right.
A lot of times when those projects are made, a lot of times the artist is in a specific mindset when that project is made, and you cannot manufacture a mindset. You can't try to put yourself back into how you were feeling at the time. It's something that you capture it while it's there, and you really just got to go with it. It's not something that you can revert back to because a fan or a group of fans say that that's their favorite project and you want something that sounds like this again. It's not possible. Like, you're not going to be able to recreate that magic. If an artist wants to move on, whether a specific subset of listeners prefer that sound from them or not, you can't force yourself to be in the same mindset that you were in when you created that body of work the first time.
Like, it's just fans have to be honest with themselves when just artists are just making work. And this just doesn't apply to OutKast. This applies to everything, like every person making music. Like the beauty of music is not like you can sometimes when you listen to an album, you can tell exactly where the artist was in just their mindset in general. Yeah. Like you 100% can. Like I don't want personally just my cup of tea. I love when artists tries new things. Everybody can't execute it well, but when they do, it's beautiful. Like just asking for sequels to super popular albums, it just don't work because the magic. Because you probably asking for a sequel to the album because it had good memories to go along with it. It had moments surrounding it. When you get that sequel, you're gonna be disappointed, not because it's bad or good, but it's just like, hey, it don't give you the same feeling as last time. Like it's a good reason why it's not giving that same feeling.
For sure. And I think something about OutKast's legacy, I feel like an important detail is being able to create that synergy between two artists. For you to be working with the same person on every album, for y'all to come together and combine the vision. And that's one thing about having a collective, you have other people to pull from. And the vision comes together to create a body of work that brings in the best of both worlds from either side. Because Big Boy going into the album doesn't have the same vision that Andre had. But that's what made the albums work so well. Is because you could see the different points of view on each album. Like even a microcosm of that would be the art of storytelling part 1. Because they're both right. Because both the stories are very intricate.
Different.
On both sides. They're very intricate on both sides. It's just you look at the approach that both of them took to the same song. and they came out with something completely different, but it worked so well when you put it together. And I feel like that's the microcosm of their career as a whole.
Like it takes very special duos to play off each other. This is why I say they so technically gifted, because not every artist can do that. Not every artist can play off. Not every artist can play off the way Andre did B-Boy and B-Boy did Andre. It's just like they seem like not to me. They seem like 99 overall rappers to me because they played off each other so well, and they rarely show a weakness in the game, if any. That's just my whole thing with building chemistry. You have to, in order to be great, you have to build chemistry. That's just not, now some of it is just strictly within the music, some of it may be outside of music, but building chemistry is everything. You can't really expect to mesh with a producer or mesh with a rapper if y'all have not built no chemistry. It's gonna either sound like a mess or it's just gonna sound underwhelming. Like that's not to say that you don't need to go out and not try new stuff to grow as an artist, but just being like, just it's like rap is just like hip hop is just like sports. It's something you have to work. It's something you have to work at. It's something you got to get good at. I believe everybody has talent. I believe everyone in this world has talent, but it is your job and yourself to hone that talent and make it and expose and make sure it gets exposed and making sure people see it. Like it's just OutKast, one of those people that you could like, you hear stories of the early days talking about how B-Boy and Andre used to run laps to work on breath control and just honing your craft. It's just it's something you have to do if you want to be considered great. No legendary rapper did not work on their rapping. They did not not practicing. Like they practiced. They worked on, they honed their craft, and that's why they remember today. Like, that's not to be discouraging to artists coming up or anything like that. But if you want to be remembered, you have to work. You have to you have to work smart and work hard. Like, don't work on the stuff that you know you're already great at. Work on the stuff you know you're not good at, so you're not bad at anything. Like working smart and working hard just as an artist. That's just OutKast. They are the son. I'm gonna lead this on this final note. OutKast as a sum, to me, greatest rap duo ever. Greatest rap act ever to me. You can't say they never made the same album twice, which puts them over so many rappers to me. You can't dropping classic albums at such a young age. Because keep in mind, these dudes was pretty much either teenagers. They were either teenagers or in their 20s for the first 3, maybe 4 albums. That's ridiculous. And to top it all off, just having the perfect, from the pool, as a skill set, they got the technical ability, you got the lyricism, you got the flow, you got the delivery, you got the songwriting, which is the greatest thing about them to me. And you have the creativity. You have everything that a lot of rappers desire as an artist, and you just can't replicate that. Not to mention, I'm gonna throw this in, not to mention having a lot of hits, given the amount of songs they have. So that's just my appreciation for them. They the GOAT to me. They are the GOAT. They are the GOAT rap act to me. Like it's hands down. Biggie to me is the solo. He is the solo, like in terms of technical ability, he's the best rapper of our time to me. But in terms of the best rap act, I have to go with OutKast.
Well, me being from the state of Georgia, that's really, I came up with them. Like they were one of the first rap acts that I really dove into and was listening to. So they like progressing through their discography, like you hear the same way you watch an athlete play basketball and you see where this player could already shoot the three, he could already pass. Then you see the next year he comes in and he's added the mid-range to his game. It's like listening to OutKast albums in chronological order, you can hear what they worked on and you can hear where the improvement comes in. That's why they call it lyrical exercise. And that's why there's so many songs from so many eras that we'll never hear, because you got to hone that skill.
Like, it's just,
and just that embodies my appreciation for them.
It's just like the whole sum of their career is, hey, if you want something, you have to work for it. You have to, if you want to be great, you have to work on being great. You just can't, you can't wake up and I don't care what anybody say, nobody wakes up in the morning and it's just straight up great at their craft on day one. You have to hone that talent. You have to work on that and make sure that you have to work on that and make sure you are consistent and make sure that you get so good that that talent is exposed. We are all born with natural talent. We just have to work. We have to hone our skills though, so that talent turns into something that we can show the world. So that's what just OutKast was to me. Like, you coming up from such a young age and you just dropping all this stuff. It seems insane looking at it on a surface level, but listen, like you said, listen to their music. It's like, hey, I can 100% tell they worked on something every single album. They worked on a skill every single album, and they got better at what they weren't good at the next or the album after that. So it's just like it's a sum. OutKast legacy is just a sum of hard work and creativity meshing together between two of the youngest rap stars in their prime. So that's just their legacy to me.
What's it?
So that concludes episode 1 of the Groovy Files. I appreciate my man Jay Trent coming up and pull up on this episode with me. King of Atlanta, even though he said he's not from Atlanta. For the next episode, I'm thinking I will either do Lupe, Mos Def, or DJ Quick. I'm feeling one of those three in some shape or form. It could change. I've been kind of thinking about Redman, but it could change. But other than that, I appreciate you for coming out for this episode, Jay Trent, and I appreciate all of you guys for watching. I'm trying to hit y'all with these not daily, but weekly, with a new episode. Try to get that set schedule going. And I appreciate y'all, and peace out.